Oh, we've come to. Oh, we've started.
I think it was Danny.
Are we all on yet?
No, I think I saw Christine on. Are you there, Christine?
Just to let you know, I've just started the session, so people will be able to join
Okay.
now.
Okay.
So I would give it a minute or two and then you can get started.
Cool. Natalie's just sent a message saying she couldn't get on. I think it just flashed up. I'm on my phone because my computer's not very good at.
Sure. I think that's a timing thing. I think she should be able to join. Because we've literally just started the session for real.
Mhm.
It was
Okay.
it was in practice mode up until about a minute ago. So
Yeah. Been a great morning so far. I've listened to quite a bit on and off, just had it in my ear with some good stuff.
We've got a big Chamber of Commerce women's event on at the ground. So my big room is full of some really good speakers in there as well. And
Fantastic.
our finance director was just telling us, and I wish I could remember all the details of how Women's Day started. And it was about Russian women during some war. I'll see if I can find it, demonstrating to stop an invasion or something, and it was the power of these women that stopped something happening. I said, oh well, let's hope it happens today as well. But it was really good to get some context as to why this is International Women's Day, because you think, because otherwise it can look a bit tokenistic, can't it? But it isn't. It's got a really good background to it.
Yeah.
Reason.
My daughter's currently in Bilbao. Big march going through International Women's Day. Really good. Yeah, got behind it.
Good. Oh, here we go. In 1910, Copenhagen hosted the second International Conference of Working Women. Clara Zetkin, German Marxist theorist and activist, proposed the concept of International Women's Day. Now that's different to what he said. She recommended that every year on Women's Day, a celebration be held in every country to honour women's fights for their demands.
Ooh. Interesting. That's fantastic. Didn't know that. It's pretty shameful.
By the look here, I think there's quite a few reasons why it started. As usually happens, that happens in football clubs, doesn't it? The reason why you have the song or the reason why you have something, and then as you go round, there's about 6 different reasons, which are all absolutely the reason why we have the wonder of you, and there's about 6 different reasons for why we have the wonder of you. But
I think that generally shows success. I think the more organic things are, and the more they can change. A bit like International Women, where it started and where it's going, it should be always moving forward, shouldn't it?
Absolutely, which is not always easy in football with you. I mean, when I joined here, I came here 3 years ago now, and there's the fans that have been fans since they were babies, and they've no idea why they're a Vale fan. They just are, and they can't stop, and they don't want anything to change at all. And then you've got your converts like me who come in and ask questions and change things. And I got a real pushback because our shirt this year is white and gold. And one of the blokes that go at me says, hey, lass, there's no black on it. And I said, well, no. I said, it's like Vale Madrid. It's beautiful. And he says, yeah, you've got to have black. And I said, well, if we get promoted in it, will you like it? And he says, yeah. I said, well, it's not the shirt then, is it? It's that you don't want change. And we really have to take them through the journey.
Yeah, change is a massive challenge. I think, well, particularly when sometimes I found, the baseline is, and I do get questions, if your baseline is, what do you know about football? And sometimes, I know what I know. Does that affect my job on a daily basis? Absolutely and utterly not. What we all bring is a different perspective, a different point of view, and like you say, change you know, is vitally important in, like you say, in football generally. Are we waiting for Natalie? Is Natalie?
She sent an email asking if everybody can get on, so I'm assuming she maybe can't.
Yeah.
Hi, Christine.
You all right? Sorry, as you all know, there's always some sort of drama going on.
Oh no, what's the drama?
Well, we've had a theft. Keep it in discreet. So yeah, somebody stolen something that was worth a lot of money out of the Leicester Football Club. We were loaned a shirt, and it's worth about 600 quid.
No.
So, but
literally overnight kind of thing, was it?
Sunday, yeah, Sunday.
Oh no.
We've identified him this morning. I think he's about 12, this kid.
Oh, well, at least you've identified him. That's good.
God, yeah, but I mean, the club are not at fault. It's not at fault, but I know this shirt was for, I think it's 90 when we won the Group Cup, the League Group, something like that. 1982. It's long sleeve Adidas shirt, and it's worth so much money. And this guy, I've opened a reminiscence hub for as part of heritage, and he's loaned it to the club to put on show. And the post sent it recorded, special delivery, and the postman signed for it and just chucked it in the lift box. Yeah, signed for, because the guy's ringing me going, oh, it's been signed for, have you got it? And I'm talking to our commercial manager, and he's like, I've not got it. And I've spent all weekend thinking, where could it be? Turned the club upside down. And we spoke to the neighbours, and one of the neighbours said, oh, I saw a young kid hanging about trying doors and stuff Sunday morning, and that's what we've been doing this morning. So yeah.
Oh God.
But
Not nice, uncomfortable, that, isn't it, when it's something
absolutely, yeah, it's not about liability, but it's just a real uncomfortable. I've got to ring this guy when we finish to tell him that the shirt's gone, but we know who it is, but as this kid's still got it, and it's irreplaceable. So
really.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
anything like that, it's unsettling as well, isn't it? It's unsettling for everybody. It's sort of situation that's sort of thoroughly unpleasant, isn't it, really?
but the whole office was sort of hunting down, trying to figure out what was going on yesterday, and yeah, so anyway, I'm hoping he gets a knock on the door from the police and we get it back.
Just to let you know, we're working on getting Natalie on the session, so
Okay, Coke.
we're working on it.
No problem.
Well, my connection to Grimsby, Christine, I've got a connection to both of you, is that I come from Lincolnshire. I am a yellow belly. I come from Alford.
Because I think you mentioned Jason, didn't you, when he first took over?
Yeah, Jason's coming to have a coffee with me.
Okay, Jason's ace. He's when we talk about female allies, he's an absolute ally, genuinely. Really.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to coming and seeing him. In fact, when I lived in Alford, we had my dad had a fish tank, a marine fishes, and the first fish he bought was black and white, and it was called Mariner.
Really? See? Yeah, we to be fair, Alford's quite a borderline, because everybody that lived in Alford was town. And then obviously our fortunes have waned a little bit, and Alford's sort of split Lincoln City, Grimsby Town now. So we're trying to sort of rectify that.
Yeah, I know there's quite a few in Alford, because when I did that tweet back to Jason and said, oh, I come from Alford, I got a load of people messaging me.
Yeah. There's I think Dave Burton probably would have replied to you. He's in Alford. Yeah, there's quite a few of them out there.
Yeah, he did.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning.
Are we all in? Okay. Sam, Carol, I can see you.
Where are you? Are you in a shop?
No, I'm in the club shop at work. Yeah, I mean, can you see?
I can. Yeah.
I might move this coat hanger. Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm in the I'm at the club. I'm in the club shop because the academy are training, so they're everywhere. I'm using every room, so
We have the same.
You get the FC United club shop today. How are you all?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
Yeah, good, good. So shall we kick off? Is there anybody else to join our session? I think we've got a few in our session. Anybody else you think's joining? Chat's open as well. Okay, let's get started. So I think everybody knows myself, Natalie Atkinson, recently appointed as Chief Operating Officer at FC United, as you can see in the club shop, glamorous as it is. So I'm just going to go around the room and let you introduce yourselves, because I think it's important that you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience within the role you're currently in. So we'll start with the first one on my screen, which is Carol. So over to you, Carol.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Carol Shanahan. I am chair of Port Vale Football Club and also the Port Vale Foundation. And I am on the board of the EFL Trust as well. I started, my husband and I have been running an IT company for 30 years, moved it next door to Vale Park, wanted to help this area. And then I said, if we wanted to really help Burslem and Stoke-on-Trent, we'd go and make Port Vale successful. He said, how? I said, I haven't got a bloody clue. And 3 years in, we're still trying to work it out. But
Carol, doing an amazing job, by the way. Next on my screen is Christine.
Hello, so I'm Christine. Started in the sport of Grimsby Town forever. Sort of relationship breakdown, what do I need to do? Some time, walked into the Supporters Trust, worked my way through there, got back into the league 2016, ended up being Supporters Liaison Officer, worked my way up through again. Currently Supporters Liaison Officer, chair of the Supporters Trust and the first ever female director of Grimsby Town.
Brilliant, love that, Christine. And Sam, over to you.
I'm Sam McKenzie, Partnerships and Sponsorships Director at Altrincham Football Club. Probably been in position about a year or so, been involved in the club for quite a while, got involved, my son, I have two boys and a girl, but my children have played football, so felt I wanted to sort of get involved, give something back. Got involved in quite a few smaller projects to start with, and then was invited to join the board, probably through experience of previous jobs. I used to be a buying merchandising manager, senior buyer for a retailer, so I understand relationships, that sort of thing. So in the commercial side of the organisation, I also sit on the community board as well, so go between the two, which is personally I find really me in terms of being able to make at the football club. So that's pretty much me to date.
Brilliant, thank you, Sam. And how do I don't want to say your name.
Yes, Rejoica.
Lovely to meet you. Yeah, lovely to meet you. Over to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a partner at Campbell Tickell. We're one of the sponsors for today. We're very involved with Fair Game, very committed to improving the culture, finance and governance of football. And I'm a lifelong football fan. I've got 3 older brothers. So, you know, my childhood was spent trying to tackle my brothers in the back garden. Even though I never got to play at school, I did actually score the winning penalty in a cup competition when I was at college. When it got to sudden death, I didn't really want to take one. Anyway, so lifelong football fan and care. I care about the kind of society we live in, and football is part of that. But I'm very passionate about football too.
That's great. Brilliant, thank you for that. What I want to do for this next kind of half an hour or so is really kind of start to challenge what our experience in terms of our own experience of being a female within the boardroom and what we think needs to change, or what we want and need to change. And it's really good to follow the session that that Christina and yourself have just done in terms of the report that Christina and the Fair Game team have pulled together in terms of, you know, that equality on and off the field, and how do we start to challenge that. The girls from the team from Her Game 2 have been on earlier, and fantastic to listen to, obviously, my teammates at Her Game 2 as well. So, and I'm really passionate that we start to speak out more and challenge what exists or what doesn't exist within boardrooms. So I guess my first question goes to you, Carol, is what do you think balance looks like within the boardroom?
I think balance is as the chair of a board, is ensuring that you don't put a board together in the image of yourself. I think you need variety on that. I think, so if you look at the board at Port Vale, I actually brought the board from Synectics, my IT company. I brought the whole lot with me. Because we've worked together a lot and we know how to build a successful company, because that's what we've been doing for 30 years. And then what I had to do is top it up with football knowledge. And so I brought Director of Football, Dave Flitcroft, on board. And also we had Colin Garlick, who's been a club secretary all his life. So we've got our 2 football experts. But football isn't just about the pitch. It's very, very important. But there's a lot more to running a football club than that. So for me to have that balance, we've got gender-wise, it's half and half. We've got half women, half men. So there's absolutely no difference there. But also we've had to adjust to normal life and then sort of adjusting that into the football world, because it ain't normal. It really isn't normal. It's quite crazy, if I'm perfectly honest. And once you embrace that and get on with it, you can then make a success of it. But I just want to say before we pass on, because I think this is the most important thing to me, is you've all got to recognise the humanity in it. And I think football's moved away from humanity. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring my own board with me, is because I know that they get that. They know what a people-centred organisation is about. And that, so here we have people who happen to be players. We have people who happen to be fans, people who happen to be, but at the root of it all, they're all people. And if when we talk about change, that in the industry, that for me is what needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that, Carol, in terms of that people-centred approach and that diversity, and not being one of the things that I talk a lot about is that diversity of thought within boardrooms, and how we start to challenge that. If we all look the same, we all think the same, that's not going to bring any diversity. That's not going to bring any challenges to what we're discussing. And you're right about football. It's not like any other industry.
No.
But if you take the principles, I guess, from your normal everyday life and your normal job into football, there is a lot to learn from outside of football that we can bring. But there's a lot to learn from football that you can take to other industries as well. So over to you, Sam, in terms of just picking up what Carol said in terms of that people-centred approach and not the image of yourself and that variety. What does variety and diversity look like at Altrincham then?
It does. It doesn't look as good as it should, is what I'll be really honest and say. I don't think many of us do. If honest, we can, you can give yourself a pat on the back and say where we are, but I like to look forward about where we're going and be quite proactive in the change. I think one of the big things for me, in terms of being on the board, I'm the only woman. There've been 3 before me. Definitely that needs to change, and I think we will. Big thing for me is about succession planning, and again, for me, that's like working and looking forward. And in terms of the people piece, which Carol mentioned, is that we're empowering people to also get where they want to go. We're doing some mentoring, which we're starting in the next few weeks, where I'm going to be mentoring a young woman that's going to join us. And I think that, the biggest thing we can get from it all is reflecting the community. We work really hard with the local community in Altrincham. Until we fully represent and reflect the local community, we aren't really the voice that we want to be yet. Are we proactive? Are we inclusive, etc.? We absolutely are. But I don't think yet we're there. And I think some of that have to come through succession planning, reaching out to groups, reaching out more locally. I always sort of say, in terms of Altrincham as a football club, I can go knocking doors with you, do you want to come and watch football? If the answer is yes, then we want to make it, for example, Her Game Too, who we absolutely love, we're involved in. What will make you come? What will make you want to be part of that journey? I'm a supporter, like all of us, love football all my life. That's kind of why I'm here. Won't get board level positions that we want without reaching out to people, getting on board, and helping them on their journey. You know, it's important that I'm a big one for empowerment, and obviously, and reflecting the community. I always kind of joke sometimes, you know, it's a bit like the old Boy Scout thing, you know, are we doing it just to get a badge or a pin badge or tick a box? We shouldn't be doing that. Like the scout that crosses the old fella and his wife across the road. Did they really want to go across the road? Probably not. So let's actually, you know, I'm a big one for listening. We need to listen to the local community. And if you don't want to come and play, you know, if you don't want to watch the football with us or participate, there's so many other ways you can do, you know, work alongside with the community. And those are the people, back to the original point, which is about the board, the more people we've got like that involved, the more people we can start to progress and work forward of getting involved in, I say more senior positions, but that is the gap, you know, to get them through and get people equipped to come and join the board or more management positions within the football club. Really, for me, that's where I kind of want to make an impact, if you will.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Sam. No, that's great. So again, picking up what Sam said in terms of being proactive and succession planning, we're striving for that modernisation, aren't we, in the boardroom? And I think through the work that you're all doing and through the work that Fair Game is really pushing in terms of that equality, the gap, and challenging what exists within boardrooms. And I think we're all doing that all the time. The more we talk, the more we start to challenge what exists. And I think if that collective voice is better than just one voice. So Christine, obviously you've been in and around Grimsby for a while now in terms of the football club, but what do you think needs to be implemented for change?
You touched on a diversity of thought, and not. I think what happens in football quite a lot is that we surround ourselves with people that think the same. We don't like people that will come in and go, do you know what? I hear you, but let's do it a little bit differently. Or have you thought about this? We have people. It's not me specifically, but we surround ourselves with people that go, that's a great idea. That's fantastic. And don't challenge. We don't like to hear challenge, and we've done it a little bit differently at Grimsby Town. That I'm the first female on the board. I've got no executive experience whatsoever. I graduated to 2020, but I've got no executive experience at that level of the organisation. But that's not what I'm there for. The chief executive that came in, she's the second female on the board. She's not from football. She's from outside of football. She came from a local charity, and she's.
Sorry, Christine. Do you believe that's been a positive then? Has that been
absolutely? I mean, there's a big learning curve because I mean, this is again. I'm not at this level at all anyway. But a chief executive going from charity to charity, you can sort of get in and you give yourself a little bit of time to get in and manoeuvre and strategize and things, but coming into football, you don't have that time. You don't have time to breathe. So it's massively, massively difficult to come into a whole new area and into Grimsby Town at a time when there were so many things to change. Where do you start? Not only where do you start to review the organisation from bottom to top, but you're also learning the rules, regulations and politics of football to go along with it. But Debbie's absolutely fantastic. She's absolutely brilliant. And what she's bringing in is a diversity of thought at a boardroom where football doesn't necessarily think in that way. But if we're representative of our community, we want to be a community club, why wouldn't we think in that way? Yeah. So sometimes making football decisions from a community aspect and a thought process is sometimes what's needed. Doesn't always work, won't always happen. But it's just that different thought and train of process that makes a massive difference, I believe, at board level.
No, that's brilliant. Radoshka, I'm just going to come back to you in a minute because I wanted to pick up something with Carol that Christine has just picked up on in terms of the new CEO at Grimsby coming from a different industry. And I wanted to ask Carol, because one of my questions was to Carol, just to pick up on that, was what have you brought from non-football industry into football? What do you believe you've brought as a positivity, and what do you believe industries outside of football can bring to football? What's been your learning? Just picking up on that point from Christine about the CEO coming from charity.
I think the biggest thing that I've brought, or anybody brings when they come in from outside of football, is that they're not committed to the tradition, and so they are happy to question it. and you know, if you look at football, it's very short term. It's very nervous as a, you know, so, and very defensive as people. And so we had a situation once with our director of football, as it happened, and we're in a board meeting, and he wanted an analyst, and so he was telling that you needed this analyst, and our finance director said, "How many do you need?" And Dave immediately went into the, "Yeah, well, we didn't have one last season, and this went wrong, and that went wrong, and blah, 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 blah." And I went, "Whoa, stop! What did you just hear? What did you just hear Rob say?" And he didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, "Did you hear him say, why do you need an analyst?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I heard him say, do you only need one?" And he went, "Oh." I said, "So rewind, now answer what he was actually asking." And I do that a lot because it's very much, you know, it's like if you lose, people will have a go at you. There won't be that, you know, that really sort of time to reflect and look at it. And we had a season last season where we were a crap sandwich. We were great, we were crap, we were great. And in the bit where we were crap, we were really crap. We won one game in 3 months. And during that time, my son was living at home, and I walked a lot. And my son said to me, a pair of us walked together, and my son said to me, "What would you do if this was Synectics?" And I said, "Well, I'd do this, and I'd put this in place, and put that in place." And he said, "Well, go and do it, because it's no different." And I think that's the bit where he really freed me. I kept looking for the difference. I kept saying, "Oh, I've got to do this different because it's football." And that's nonsense. You don't. But then where the difference comes is that, having put that in place, I then had to cut out the noise, because I then got 5,000 people who knew better than I did, who didn't. You know, I mean, we've had one this morning where, you know, our comms director has said, "Oh, the fans are saying this, that, and the other." And I said, "Yeah, but they don't know what we know. So on what they know, that might be a good advice, but on what we know that's not good advice. So therefore, interesting, park it." You know, so you get that. So this 5,000 people, you know, thinking that they have a feeling that they have a right, you know, and I think that's what Jason's done at Grimsby so well, is that he's really sort of engaged with the fan base, whereas and that's the same thing as we did. We had to turn the fan base around. And can I just say, I was in the last game that Grimsby played with their old owners before Jason moved in, and I can see a huge difference that they've made there. I think they're doing wonderful things at Grimsby, I really do.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Carol. Sorry, I just wanted to pick up on that point, because it was really important from what Christine said. And I think we're all aligned to that, in that, you know, there's a lot of learnings that we can take from people outside of different industries, and utilising our great owners like yourself, Carol, and Jason, obviously, and the new CEO down at Grimsby as well. So, sorry, I'm coming back to you now, Radochika. In terms of fair game, you've just been in the session. We've just released that information, that report in terms of gender equality. What does gender equality, and where do we get to that? What does it mean to you, and how do we get to that all shining, all bright gender equality inside a boardroom? How do we get there?
So I think first of all, there has to be the desire to get there. So there has to be a recognition that something is missing. And I think what we know is, actually, there's a lot of research, you know, outside the world of football, that women make a difference on boards. So, and research about the effectiveness of teams, that women make a difference to the effectiveness of teams. So in a way, it's highlighting that diversity is integral to effective decision making. Doesn't mean it's always comfortable, and it isn't just women. Of course, it's, you know, about other characteristics. And as Carol and Christine were drawing out, it's also about different lived experiences, different sectors, different skills. And I think sometimes the tribalism of football maybe can lead to a sort of sense of exclusion. You know, are people like us? You know, are we bringing on people like us? And actually, diversity can be uncomfortable. You know, the reality is, you know, wrestling with divergent viewpoints about things and trying to sort of work your way through them can feel a little bit bumpy sometimes. But actually, what we know is the decisions that come out of that are much more effective than the decisions from a group of people who think they've been working really well together because they feel like they're with people like us, in inverted commas, and in fact are making much poorer decisions about things. So there are things, little bits of research about actually what's the culture within a kind of team. Are there 2 or 3 people who hold forth at great length? Or actually, is there really active listening going on? You know, are people short, sharp interchanges to kind of say, actually, I heard what that person's saying, and I'm going to build on that point, and I'm going to develop that point, rather than sit and hold this kind of egotistical thing about, I've got something to say, and I'm going to say it, whatever anybody else has said. So because it doesn't mean that men can't play this role, but because women have been habituated from, you know, the way that gender develops, you know, to focusing on their interpersonal communications, some of that fluidity, you know, helps in a kind of boardroom environment. As I said, it doesn't mean that men can't do it too. There are lots of men I've seen who do that very well, and lots of women I've seen who don't always do it. So, but you know, what we know about the research is it makes a difference. So I think we have to start from a position of humility. I think we have to start from a position of openness, but it also means the board being strategic and kind of saying, actually, this is something that is part of our strategic objectives, that we want to have a more diverse, inclusive club. And it starts with us. You know, we set the tone from the top, and that should influence the whole structure of the club one way or another. So maybe that's kind of optimistic, but, you know, that's where I would start.
No. I think you're absolutely right, and something we've been talking about here closely at FC United is that, does our board and our committees that we have, does it represent our fan base? And no, it doesn't. And there's an awareness of that. And I think that's the first point, is realizing that no, you know, our board is not reflective of our community and our fan base, and we need to change. And here at FC United, we've put in a number of committees that are very diverse, from all different backgrounds, where nobody looks the same, which is fantastic. So that diversity comes in. There's a question that I'm going to pose to all of you that Ben's put in the chat. He said, in your experience, are there a lot of women wanting to serve on football club boards and not getting the opportunity? Or is the problem more a lack of women wanting to get involved because the environment is not wanting to get involved because the environment is so male dominated? Sam, what's your thoughts on that? And you obviously coming to Altrincham to support and guide and advise the club. I know we've spoken about it quite a lot in terms of your role. Have you come into a male dominated environment, and were you worried about that, or was that something you kind of embraced?
I mean, I wasn't worried, and embraced it in many respects. We just have been going out for some new board positions, and actually had a lot of time. It's the first time we've sort of actively gone out, and so we are now starting a selective process that will hopefully yield some positive stuff, and we'll get the board looking a lot more dynamic and diverse than it currently is. So me personally, I've embraced it. Yes, it's male dominated for the reasons we've all just been talking about, really. The voice just needs to change. I felt really very listened to. I think Kat made a good point about that. I've witnessed those exchanges, when woman just does not see the same thing as the men do in the meetings. I mean, that was just, I've been witness to that, Carol, on numerous occasions. Stop, listen and reflect. That was not what was being said. Again, to the point of everybody wanting to be on the same page, whether it's this camaraderie, whether it's this sort of boys club or whatever. I actually think there's a lot of comfort that they get, men get from that. We can actually challenge that as well by bringing something different, not by wanting to sort of break it down, not by wanting to, attack it almost, but just kind of change it, really, and say there is a different point of view. If you listen, if you stop, if you try to change, if you embrace some change, if you embrace a different voice, if you listen and digest and reflect, change can be, really positive, and it's necessary. It's just, it just needs breaking down. It might bring the change forward.
And picking up that point, Sam, Christine, in terms of that change, is it that we're fearful of change, or club boards are fearful of that, making a decision that's that they're scared of, or is there a point where we need to embrace it, like Sam says, that change is good, different directions are positive, it's the way we should be going? Do you believe there's still that fear to move forward?
I think there's fear on both sides. There's fear from men in football that women are going to take over. Not that would be a bad thing, but there's also a perception that football is a men's game, and what we try and do. I mean, at Grimsby, I think our fan base is like 20% female, and they're absolutely fantastic. And it's rare. I've not come across a bad experience in terms of match attending, but to then try and get them. So that's where I came from, match attending, worked my way up through there. There was nobody that I could aspire to or look up to or talk to. So I did it all on my own. So I'm now at a point where you're trying to bring succession planning in, right? So who's going to come in on the board after me for the trust? Who's going to come in on the board after me for the club? And you talk to so many women, and I do think this is a male-female thing. And I went to a conference when I was at uni that said, when there's an opportunity in front of you, if there are 10 points for a role, if a man only knows one, or can identify with one and doesn't know 9, he'll go for a role. But if a woman knows 9 and doesn't know 1, she won't go for that role. So we go back to that empowerment, that we've all got a real big role to do. It's not easy. I'm absolutely privileged. I'm massively lucky that as a club now we have Jason and Andrew that are absolutely fantastic, and our chief exec is absolutely fantastic. But I think at the moment we are one of a very few, and that needs to become from one of very few to one of many. And that's a seismic shift. The further up the game you go, the more of a closed shop at board level it is. So we've all got a role to play in that, and empowering people to go, well, I haven't got experience in that. So if I looked at the board opportunity that came to me, and I actually ran my lecture and went, I can't do this. That was my first reaction. I can't do this. Wow. What are you fearful of? Well, this. So what? So it's about it doesn't matter if you've not got experience. That's why you are there for a reason, and you are good at what you do. You've got that experience, and you've got that different mindset. And it's about overcoming our own personal mindsets, but the mindset of football as well.
Absolutely. Really good point, that, Christine. And it is very much about, for us as females, not fearing going into a role, and knowing that we've got things to say in a positive and moving the game forward, and that ability to have that discussion, whether it's a board level or whether it's an operational level. So kind of final few minutes, just wanted to pick up on the fantastic work, obviously, that Fair Game have been doing, and in terms of the manifesto around diversity and rewarding good governance. Carol, just to come to yourself, obviously been a supporter of Fair Game, as you all have, from more or less the beginning, really. In terms of that rewarding good governance and diversity that's within the manifesto and obviously within the fan-led review, what's your thoughts on Fair Game and how we can move that shift forward to having good governance within football clubs?
Well, if you don't mind, I just want to pick up on a point that's sort of thread through all of that, because I think that there's a different way of looking at it. There's a different way that I look at this, and I don't look at it as man, woman, male, female. I look at it as masculine and feminine, and masculine and feminine energies. And football has been overtaken by masculine energy, and it's all about strength and everything else. Now, what women are bringing in is a femininity, but that strength in that femininity. I always say, if you're thinking that women are weak, you try and take a cub off a lioness, you'll soon see, how strong that they are. And so in here, we've got our DFO, our dedicated football officer, is a woman. Most of our board, or half of our board, are women. There's a lot of women in Port Vale. And what we're bringing is that strong feminine energy into a place, which is then allowing the men to allow some of their feminine energy out, because that's been the taboo in football. You know, it's all a bit banter, man, you know, the rest of it. Whereas we don't have that. We have a very different environment here in which to work, where people are centered, but there is an allowance for that female energy. And I think once we start to bring that, and if we can be successful doing that, and then people start to see, oh, hang on, what's going on at Grimsby Town, what's going on at Port Vale, then they start to look, and then they mimic it. And I think that is the way that more women will come in, as that feminine energy becomes okay and is an accepted, and as long as we don't try and outman the men. And I think that's the other thing I would say to women coming into the industry: don't do that. They balls it up on their own. They don't need us to balls it up, you know. So just go and be the strong women that you are, and allow that feminine energy to permeate through the industry, because it needs it.
Absolutely. Good point, Sam. In terms of fair game, and us striving for that equality and rewarding good governance and having diversity across boards, what's Altringham's stance on where we are and where you want to get to as a football club?
I mean, literally, if you were to be, you know, in terms of fair game, is obviously see that right through to the end. I think there's a lot of fantastic objectives that need to be, you know, followed through, and we're definitely supportive of everything that's going on there. In terms of Altrincham Football Club, as our own aims and objectives, is, you know, I'm going to be really brutal, really. The whole diversity piece, some of it has got commercial gain for us. We eat, and we want to get as many as we can, and we want to make sure everybody returns. So there's a commercial aspect to it that we really do want to support and sort of drive forward, and definitely get behind fair game and the, you know, everything they're doing. I think it's great. It's been since the start, and we really are behind it here, you know.
Christine and yourself, you've been a big supporter of the work of fair game. How does the role in terms of fair game's role in terms of diversity and rewarding that good practice, what does that look like for Grimsby, and how are you relaying that message to your fans as well?
I think what we're trying to do, I mean, we've been sort of one of the founding members of Fair Game, in that it is about fairness, and it's not on the pitch fairness, but fairness across the board, whether that's finances or in the boardroom or in the commercial department. It's about having a voice, and it's not about having a voice, oh, well, you're a fan, so we're not going to give you a voice. So obviously Fair Game's proposal is, well, you're a fan, but you're a massive part of a football club, and if you're not there, what's a football club?
Yeah.
And the equality in that is a big thing. As I say, with Grimsby Town, I think three of our ladies are on the front of the report, and they're going to be absolutely delighted when that goes out publicly. I'll see them at Southend tonight. But football needs to change, and it's not, we see the headline figures of changes in finance, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. And for it to be a positive change, it's got to be an all-encompassing change, and that's what the Fair Game mantra is about. It's not, well, that's a small little thing, I'm going to concentrate on this. Let's look at it all. Let's do these different threads of work throughout a football club to get us where we need to be and where we do need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. Football does need to change. We spoke about, you know, football is if we don't do something, football will be broken. Well, it is now. Let's do something about it now. Just wanted a final comment from yourself, Doshka, in terms of how we move forward. What would you like to see football look like in terms of diversity on club boards within the next, not 5 years, within the next year? What does it look like to you?
Oh, I think it looks like a sort of targeted, you know, action plan to change the composition of the board if it's not really reflecting the communities in which that club operates. So this is about trying to, you know, football shouldn't be in a little bubble outside society. Football is part of society. And in a way, what we're trying to articulate, I think all of us together, is the way that we want society to be different. And football is one part of that. And women can own the role. I mean, I hear what Carol's saying in a way. Women can own the role that they can shape to influence things, that they can, you know, have that confidence and that agency doesn't have to be a kind of competition on a different battlefield. They can actually shape the rules of that game in a different way. And I think that that's what we're all trying to do. And I think we shouldn't feel that we're less than, and we shouldn't have to feel that we have to be more than to get an equal shot. And I think that that's what we're all battling for.
Brilliant. Really like that in terms of shape the rules of the game. That's fantastic. Thank you for that comment. Just a quick thank you to everybody in terms of today's session. I hope you found that useful and those that are attending the session found it useful. Some really thought-provoking points in there, particularly around strength that I've taken in terms of diversity of thought, strength of femininity, which is a really good point, Carol. Women can own the role and not being frightened of taking on a role within a boardroom. I think that's key, and that we've got a lot to bring, and it is about challenging now. It's not about saying we need to do something in so many years or whatever. It's about doing something now. So I wanted to thank you everybody for joining the session. I hope you found that really useful, and let's keep pushing the boundaries. Well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
you.
It's just a bullshit, isn't it, really?